Retributors have not been that great in 10th edition. They were 125 points, they are now 115 points, which still isn't great compared to other faction similar units like Havocs at 125 points or Space Marine Devastators at 120 points. Those two units are heavy weapon squads, but with more wounds, more weapon options, and higher toughness. Retributors are rarely used when Codex Sisters of Battle came out, which I guess is called Codex Adepta Sororitas, but I'm still used to Sisters of Battle as the army name. I've been playing this for a while. They were used in the Index, only because the Immolator gave you full rerolls to wound when disembarking. This made the multi-melters work. Wounding tanks and monsters on a 5 wasn't so bad. In the June 2025 balance patch, the Retributors received a 10 points reduction for the squad of 5, their only squad size, and they got a change to their unit rule. In the Index, they could reroll wound rolls of 1, in the Codex, they could reroll wound rolls of 1, but if attacking an enemy unit that had destroyed a Sisters unit, you could fully reroll the wound roll. It was conditional on firing at the exact unit that needed to be hit, but rerolling all the wound rolls worked for all of the guns, the heavy bolters, the heavy flamers, and the multi-melters. In the balance patch, the Storm of Retribution rule was updated, so you reroll hit rolls of 1 and wound rolls of 1, and when attacking a unit that destroyed an Adepta Sororitas unit earlier in the battle, you add 1 to the hit roll and the wound roll of the ranged attack instead. So you don't get to reroll 1s, and also get +1 to the hit and wound roll. I would have really liked to have the rerolls and the +1 bonuses, because the +1 bonus can be achieved on other heavy weapons in 2 different ways. First of all, you can remain stationary, then the heavy roll kicks in, you get +1 to hit. Rerolling hit rolls of 1 would be better in that case, but you lose that. Then again, how often would you remain stationary with the Retributors? They want to move out of cover to shoot something, or disembark from a transport, or arrive from reserves. There's not a lot of times where they will have been out in the open, not killed, and be able to shoot at an enemy. The Hallowed Martyr's detachment rule gives them +1 to hit, if they're below starting strength. But really, how often do the Retributors take 1 or 2 casualties? More often, all of them are dead in a single round of shooting. And I still find them a little bit too expensive. Can they be 110 points or 105 points? Because at 115 points, they are the same price as Dominions. Dominions can scout. Dominions have a simulacrum to generate additional miracle dice on objectives. Dominions have a similar number of special weapons, though not as many shots, because 4 melter gun shots is half the number of shots of multi-melters. There's slightly less range with melter guns, but there are 10 Dominions, a much more survivable number, as even if half of them are destroyed, you still have the 4 guns. The melter guns, the storm bolters, or the flamers. After the second casualty on the Retributor, you are losing heavy weapons. You could think of Retributors as discount Paragon warsuits, as they are about half the cost. If you think of them like that, a similar number of multi-melters, getting +1 to hit and wound in certain circumstances, but then you consider the Paragon warsuits' toughness and their save and their number of wounds. Retributors have all of the endurance and survivability of a Victorian match girl in winter. There are 3 kinds of weapons the Retributors can take. You can mix and match the weapons, and if you buy the box, it comes with 2 multi-melters, 2 heavy bolters, and 2 flamers. So you cannot equip your entire unit with multi-melters. Know that before you buy the box. Through Games Workshop, or through one of my affiliates that will give you that box, or any other Sisters box, at a discount compared to buying through Games Workshop. If you have heavy flamers, they don't enjoy the hit bonus. And compared to Dominions, you have the same number of flamer shots. It's still D6 shots. The Dominions flamers are strength 5 and AP 0, the Retributors heavy flamers are strength 6 and AP -1. That is the only difference, and the Dominions get 5 more Dominions along with all of the other stuff that I mentioned. Heavy bolters are an option. Heavy bolters can use the reroll hit rolls of 1 or reroll wound rolls of 1 or +1 to hit and +1 to wound. You get an equal number of heavy bolters on 2 mortifiers for a similar cost. It is 140 points compared to 115 points. But for 25 points more, you get a more survivable frame, hitting on a 3+, even if they moved, and massive buzz blades. So if you have Retributors, you really need to pick multi-melters. The +1 to wound brings us back to a good wound profile against tanks, if you can get that +1 to wound. Then you go from wounding on a 5+ to wounding on a 4+, so lower miracle dice for wound rolls can work. 4 multi-melters is a discount Paragon Warsuit unit who normally carry 3 multi-melters. Do you want to add any characters to the Retributors? A Dialogus is the cheapest, and that lets you change 1 miracle dice into a 6, or 2 if you're in the Army of Faith, because each time you perform an act of faith, the miracle dice is changed into a 6. It feels a waste to guarantee some sustained hits on a heavy bolter, so thinking of multi-melters, that is a guaranteed wound roll, or high damage, or it's a successful hit when firing Overwatch. You could add Astrid and Agatha to the squad, but you're not firing many shots, and your tactic then is, I hope I roll 6s for devastating wounds. It's not that likely, and Astrid and Agatha work much better with Celestian Sacrosancts or Dominions, both of whom have more attacks. We don't consider a Dogmata because Dogmatas are overpriced. Even if you increase the objective control of the Retributors, this is not a squad that is holding objectives. Best they can do in that situation is die on the objective and generate you a miracle dice. With the Canoness, some of the stratagems that cost 1 command point become free, and you could equip the Canoness with a Rod of Office. That gives you reroll hit rolls of 1, which you already have from Storm of Retribution, but if you're attacking an enemy that already destroyed one of your Battle Sister units, then you get +1 to hit and reroll hit rolls of 1. Obviously this will not work if you have heavy flamers. A Palatine will give your 5 sisters lethal hits and be a close range surprise if the enemy wants to attack you. You discard a miracle dice, the Palatine has rapturous blows, the other sisters don't matter, you can get to killing the enemy in combat, but the Palatine can do that anywhere. If you wanted a Flamer squad, Junith can give you another heavy Flamer, and as a unit rule you are -1 to hit, so that gives you some endurance. The Hospitaller gives you a 5+ feel no pain, and if your unit can survive, you could resurrect all of the heavy weapon sisters if you discard a miracle dice on the Hospitaller. The Imagifier could give them a 2+ save, that is much more survivable as long as there's no armor penetration. But to really keep your Retributors safe, you would have to put them in a transport, ideally a Rhino. The Immolator is for splitting units. The Rhino is cheaper even if you only half fill it. And at that point, congratulations, your 5 sisters and bonus character and transport now cost more than the Paragon Warsuits. These are no longer discount Paragon Warsuits, they're just expensive Paragon Warsuits you had to force multiply into being like Paragon Warsuits. You need to keep that cost down. The only tactic I've had work with them is to have the 5 Retributors alone in strategic reserves. Arrive and then strike the enemy unit that killed one of yours earlier in the game. That gives you the +1 to hit and +1 to wound on your multi-melters. If none of the targets that have done that are suitable for their weapons, shoot a target that is. Don't shoot cultists with multi-melters just because you would hit them on a 3+. I was happy with Retributors in the index when they were 105 points and could jump out of an Immolator. From playing some games in the last few days, 1 squad of Retributors is where I put my maximum. I prefer Dominions. Let me know if you use Retributors in the comments, and if you do, how you use your Retributors and what you have them equipped with. There are plenty more army lists that don't include any Retributors and a lot of Battle Sisters. Have a great day of 40k.